The cantina on Kepler Station buzzed with the usual mix of species: Zephyrian traders with their crystalline exoskeletons, hulking Corvin engineers, and the occasional Nexari diplomat floating in their containment suits. But it was the lone human sitting in the corner booth that drew Vextar's attention. The Throkan mercenary's mandibles clicked in amusement as he observed the small, pink-skinned creature hunched over a datapad. Humans had only recently joined the Galactic Council, and their reputation preceded them: weak, slow, with pathetic lifespans and no natural weapons to speak of. They compensated with crude technology and an inexplicable stubbornness that often got them killed. "Look at that," Vextar rumbled to his crew, his forearms gesturing toward the human. A human scout, probably lost and too proud to admit it. His companions, a scarred Velthian assassin named Kess and a cybernetically enhanced Morvac called Grex, followed his gaze. The human appeared unremarkable even by human standards: medium height, brown hair, wearing standard council fatigues with scout insignia. "Should we help the poor thing?" Kess hissed, her serpentine tongue flicking out in what passed for Velthian humor. "Might fetch a decent ransom from the Terran embassy." Vextar stood, his massive frame casting a shadow over nearby tables. At nearly 3 meters tall and built like a living siege engine, he was accustomed to intimidating other species. His reputation as one of the sector's most efficient mercenaries meant most beings gave him a wide berth. He approached the human's table with deliberate, heavy steps. The human, according to the name tag, Marcus Chen, didn't look up from his datapad. "Lost little human?" Vextar's translator rendered his words in standard galactic, though the condescension needed no translation. Marcus finally raised his eyes. They were dark, almost black, and held an odd quality that Vextar couldn't quite identify. Not lost. Waiting. Waiting? Vextar's laugh was a sound like grinding stone. "For what? Your nursemaid to come collect. You?" Several patrons turned to watch the spectacle. Humans were still novelties in this part of the galaxy, and seeing one confronted by a Throkan mercenary promised entertainment. "For you to leave me alone would be nice," Marcus replied, returning, his attention to the datapad. The dismissal stung. Vextar's pride, already wounded by a recent job that had gone sideways, flared. He slammed one of his 4 hands on the table, causing drinks to rattle. "Do you know who I am, meat?" he snarled. "I've killed beings 3 times your size. I've toppled governments and burned entire fleets. Show some respect." Marcus sighed and set down the datapad. "Yeah, I know who you are. Vexitar the Bone Crusher, wanted in 17 systems for war crimes. Notorious for the Proxima Station massacre where you killed 300 civilians." He paused, tilting his head slightly. "Also wanted by the Andromedans for breach of contract and by the Hegemony for desertion under fire." The cantina had gone quiet. Even the background hum of alien conversations had ceased. Vextar's mandibles spread in a predatory grin. "Well researched, but knowing who I am and surviving an encounter with me are very different things." "True," Marcus acknowledged, "but you're making an assumption." "Which is?" "That I'm just a scout." The human's demeanor shifted so subtly that most beings in the cantina missed it. But Vextar, with his predator's instincts, felt the change like a sudden drop in atmospheric pressure. The human's posture remained relaxed, but something fundamental had altered in the space around him. "All humans look the same to me," Vextar sneered, though uncertainty crept into his voice. "Weak, fragile, prey." Marcus smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "You know what's funny about humans, Vextar?" he said conversationally. "We're persistence hunters. Back on our homeworld, we used to chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. We'd track wounded animals across continents. We never gave up." Vextar's primary eyes narrowed. "What's your point, meat?" "My point is that I've been tracking you for 8 months. 17 systems, 43 stations, and 12 planets. You've been very thorough in covering your tracks, but humans are very, very patient." The mercenary's blood went cold. "Tracking. Me? For who?" Marcus reached slowly into his jacket, movements deliberate and non-threatening. He produced a small device, a military-grade quantum communicator that definitely did not belong to a simple scout. The families of the Proxima Station victims pooled their resources. They hired someone to find you, someone who specializes in difficult retrievals. You're no scout, Vextar breathed. Marcus Chen, Hunter-class operative, Terran Special. Forces. I've been waiting here for 3 days because my intelligence suggested you'd stop at this station. You're predictable when you're nervous, and you've been nervous since the hegemony put a 10 million credit bounty on your head. Vextar's hand moved toward his weapon, but Marcus was already in motion. The human moved with a fluid grace that defied his species' reputation, closing the distance between them faster than Throken reflexes could compensate for. The cantina erupted in chaos as tables overturned and patrons scrambled for cover. Kess reached for her plasma rifle but found herself staring down the barrel of a weapon she didn't recognize. Sleek, compact, and humming with barely contained energy. 5 seconds, Marcus said calmly, as if he hadn't just disarmed 3 of the sector's most dangerous mercenaries. That's how long it took. Grex, the cybernetically enhanced Morvac, activated his combat protocols. His targeting systems locked onto the human, but Marcus seemed to anticipate the movement. A small device flew from his hand, attaching itself to Grex's chest plate. The mercenary systems immediately went dark. EMP burst, Marcus explained to the frozen tableau around him, tuned specifically for Morvac military augmentations. We do our homework. Vextar found himself on the floor, though he couldn't remember falling. A strange tingling sensation spread through his limbs, and his vision began to blur. Neurotoxin, Marcus said, holstering his weapon. Non-lethal, but you'll be unconscious in about 30 seconds. Long enough for hegemony security to arrive. Impossible, Vextar gasped. Humans are weak, slow. Marcus crouched beside the fallen mercenary, his dark eyes holding no trace of mercy. You know what humans really are, Vextar? We're the species that looked at a galaxy full of beings stronger, faster, and more advanced than us and decided we belonged here anyway. The Throcan's vision faded as the sound of approaching security forces filled the cantina. We're not the strongest or the fastest, Marcus continued, though Vextar could no longer see him clearly. But we're the ones who never stop coming, and in a galaxy full of predators, that makes us the most dangerous species of all. The last thing Vextar heard before unconsciousness claimed him was the soft hum of Marcus Chen's communicator as the human reported mission success to his handlers. The laughter had died 5 seconds after it began, replaced by the silence of a hunter who had found his prey. In the aftermath, as hegemony forces secured the notorious mercenaries, the other patrons of the cantina would remember this moment. They would tell the story in a dozen different languages across 100 worlds. The day a human reminded the galaxy why Earth's children walked among the stars not as victims, but as equals. And in the darker corners of the galaxy, other predators would hear this tale and remember, humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. They were human,